Hey, how's it going? So I've kind of teased about doing a video about this on my Substack. I don't know if you guys know that I have a Substack, but that's whatever. Um, I wanted to talk about two cult leaders that I've talked about before, but I didn't want to do it in the exact same way. So what's interesting is these two have something in common. They both had encounters with a dude named Charles George Gordon. And the funny thing is, in one instance, it was the best thing that ever happened to him. And the other one, it was the one that basically ended his life. So it's very interesting to see how, you know, you can go from two extremes like that. One great victory and then one great defeat that basically puts the end on the story. So very interestingly, I'm gonna look at both of these, cult leaders, not in depth, not like I have in the past, but just out of boredom, but also because I think this is very interesting because the word Hubris doesn't just define Charles Gordon, it also defines these two people because they both had extreme levels of hubris. They were both very arrogant. They were both very proud. And I'm going to show you exactly how in both cases. So let's start with the fun one. Let's start with the one dude, the dude named Hong Xiuquan. I'm on a China kick, so why not? So this dude, like I said, is the fun one because, for one, he failed the civil service examination, which was the only way at that time in China to get a good government job or to get a good job in general. So he failed it, and I think just looking at that, pattern of failure, having tried multiple times and not made it, I think he thought his life was definitely not going anywhere. So the direction that he took is therefore quite interesting. So, yeah, Hong Xiuquan was born Hong Huo Xiu with the courtesy name Ren Kun, was a Chinese revolutionary and religious leader who led the Taiping Rebellion against the Qing dynasty, which I'm all for, rising up against governments, but, you gotta do it the right way, not like this. This is a lesson in how not to do it. He established the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom over large portions of southern China, with himself as the Heavenly King. And there comes in the hubris that I was talking about. This guy, even though he failed the civil service examinations and didn't possibly see a life for himself, he still had that pride in him to want to be somebody. He was born in a Hakka family in Guangzhou. Hong claimed to have experienced mystical visions after repeatedly failing the imperial examinations. He came to believe that his celestial father, who he saw in the visions, was God. His celestial elder brother was Jesus, and he had been directed to rid the world of demons. Like I said, hubris is definitely going to be a word that comes up a lot. He rejected Confucianism and began propagating a fusion of Christianity, Taoism, and millenarianism. In other words, millennial ideas about the apocalypse and all that, which Hong presented as a restoration of the ancient Chinese religion in Shangdi. His associate Feng Yunshan then founded the God-worshipping society to spread Hong's teachings, which I'm not going to read all this, but it's definitely weird how, like I said, the hubris played a role in all this. Hong attempted and failed the imperial examinations for a third time, leading to a nervous breakdown. He was delirious for days to the point where his family feared for his life. How weird would it have been if he had just died rather than go on to found a cult? While convalescing or recovering, Hong dreamed of visiting heaven, where he discovered he possessed a celestial family distinct from his earthly family, which included a heavenly father, mother, elder brother, sister-in-law, wife, and son. His father, wearing a black dragon robe and a high-brimmed hat with a gold beard, lamented the men worshipping demons rather than himself, and presented Hong with a sword and golden seal to slay the demons infesting heaven. It just keeps going back to Hubris. It keeps going back to this guy must think he's the main character of something. Like, what does he think this is, a wushu novel? Furthermore, he did so with the help of his celestial older brother and a heavenly army. So he changes his name to Hong Xiuquan, and he sees some things that confirms in his mind that he was right about everything, Hubris and all, So this totally leads to him burning all the Confucian and Buddhist statues and books in his house. He just starts trying to tell everybody in his community about his visions. They start destroying other objects around the village, and it gets really annoying. But let's pause right here, because I got a really interesting thing. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Because there's another dude who had a similar thing. So the other dude we're going to be talking about, his name is Muhammad Ahmad. Yeah, Muhammad Ahmad bin Abdullah. Who once again, like with Hong Xiuquan, Hubris is definitely this guy's favorite. This Hubris defines this man. So he fights a war against the Ottoman Egypt, and it's totally crazy. Just like with the war against the Qing dynasty. So this dude, like Hong Xiuquan, Muhammad Ahmad claimed to be the Mahdi, or this important figure in Islam. Once again, it's not important to establish exactly what that is, but it just shows that both these people had an extreme level of hubris, pride, and all that. They really wanted to be somebody. And he went to war with the Ottoman Egyptian government. He created this whole state. It gets totally nuts, but yeah. So Muhammad Ahmad claimed to be the Mahdi so as to prepare the way for the second coming of Jesus. Yeah, remember what I said about Hubris? In part, his claim was based on his status as a prominent Sufi sheikh with a large following in the Samaniya order and among the tribes in the area around Abba Island. Yet the belief in the Mahdiya had been central to the Sufi order. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The whole thing is this dude was arrogant. and scholars weren't in favor of this dude. So once again, we have two people defined by this absolute madness level of hubris. When the Governor General Muhammad Rauf Pasha in Khartoum learned the 29th of June 1881 declaration by Muhammad Ahmad as the Mahdi, he believed the man would be satisfied with a government pension, and he sent Ahmad a friendly letter. The Mahdi telegraphed an uncompromising reply, saying, "He who does not believe in me will be purified by the sword." So yeah, Hubris. Hubris is definitely a big thing here. So we have two people that were not just proud, but also very willing to use violence against the state, the government. So let's go back to the good old boy Hong Xiuquan. So this is when Hong basically declares war against the Qing dynasty. By 1850, Hong had between 10,000 and 30,000 followers. See, I skipped some stuff. That's kind of what happens when you skip some stuff. It makes it hard to explain just how someone gets to a point where they can actually go to war with the government. But for the sake of time and brevity and making my point, I guess I'm going to skip that for now. So he had 10,000 and 30,000 followers. The authorities were alarmed at the growing size of the sect and ordered them to disperse. Just like the guy that wrote the letter to good old crazy Mahdi, it wasn't taken very well. A local force was sent to attack them when they refused, but the imperial troops were routed and a deputy magistrate killed. A full-scale attack was launched by government forces in the first month of 1851 in what came to be known as the Jintian Uprising, named after the town of Jintian, which became Guiping, Guangxi, where the sect is based. Hong's followers emerged victorious and beheaded the Manchu commander of the government army. So every time these guys get like a victory or they win something, it's like their ego blows up all the more. Hong declared the founding of the heavenly kingdom of transcendent peace. I don't get that translation, but yeah, so these guys, they get their hands on a little bit of a win, a little bit of a victory, and like I said, it goes to their head. It goes completely to their head. Hong and his troops remained in Yong'an for 3 months, sustained by the local landowners who were hostile to the Manchu-ruled Qing dynasty. The imperial army regrouped and launched another attack on the rebels in Yong'an. So these guys, they managed to score something, which is crazy. If this whole thing had just ended right there, that would have been like, there would have been less loss of life. So I find it hard to say that sometimes these things should just die out immediately. So now we're back to Sudan in the in the whole Mad Mahdi thing, but soon in open revolt against the Egyptians, Muhammad Ahmad proclaimed himself the Mahdi, the promised redeemer of the Islamic world. In August 1881, the then governor of Sudan, Rauf Pasha, sent 2 companies of infantry, each with 1 machine gun, to arrest him. I mean, that, on some level, you could argue that is a little bit of an overkill, but I would say that's definitely not overkill given that people like this tend to have crazy followers. The captains of the 2 companies were each promised promotion if the soldiers were the ones to return the Mahdi to the governor. Oh boy. So you just basically threw these people to their deaths, is what I would say. Both companies had disembarked from the steamer that had brought them from the Nile to Abba Island and approached the Mahdi's village from separate directions. Arriving simultaneously, each force began to blindly fire on each other. I'm going to say that just one more time, just so no one misheard me. I think I misheard me. Let me just say that again. Arriving simultaneously, each force began to fire blindly on the other, allowing the Mahdi's scant followers to attack and destroy each force in turn at the Battle of Abba. So they just started shooting at each other, like, boom, 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 boom. I mean, if I was the cult leader, that would totally tell me I'm in the right, completely. So he began a strategic retreat, and this movement posed as a triumphant progress, incited many Arab tribes to rise in support of the jihad the Mahdi had declared against the Egyptian government. So these guys, they get lucky. They get really, really lucky, and it's crazy. But, you know, in a few other episodes, we'll get to the part where the one dude gets very unlucky, Charles Gordon. Because, yeah, that's a crazy story. Also about Hubris, but, you know. I think that's the whole running theme of this, is that Hubris is bad. You know, pride is bad. Pride leads to a fall. And sometimes, you know, your fall becomes a matter of history, world history. Anyway, glad to have a little bit of fun with you guys, and I'm glad there was that funny little twist. But anyway, I'll see you in the next one.